What's up, War Room? Welcome back. Joe and Connor. We had a very special normal pod this week. Our first ever Jeopardy style trivia throwdown. I'm happy to say I narrowly won, but CR did a great job battling, setting up the structure for the battle for me and Paul. So great job, CR. How you doing? How you feeling?
It was a lot of fun. I like being a game show host. I think it's something I would like to do down the line as a guest appearance, similar to our former quarterback that like to do. I don't know if I'd do Jeopardy. We'll see. But you guys were great contestants. I was very impressed. I thought it was quite difficult, to be honest with you. If people listen back to it, I'd be very curious to get an honest feedback of how well people did, because honestly, as I was making it, some of the stuff I didn't know. I thought it was plenty of the stuff I didn't know. I thought it was very difficult. So something we'll look forward to run back. We're going to try to get maybe a member of War Room. Maybe we'll do it as like a sweepstakes, a giveaway or something to be a contestant. Maybe we could do some big giveaways and incorporate it. Maybe even into a live show. We'll see.
Yes, as the always needed reminder, August 23rd at Stout, badlandstoj.com. Get that ticket today, for God's sakes. And yes, we'll be doing a bunch of different giveaways and fun segments there, along with our normal live show goodness. So for War Room today, since the pod was our game show, we're going to kind of run through a few different topics. We have a few Discord questions. We haven't got a chance yet to talk about our ex-quarterback, talking about the Jets coaching last year, the structure of their running game. Now, Aaron Rodgers is not wrong. The Jets running game was shit last year, and their scheme design was very bad. What is funny and ironic is that a large part of why it was bad is because Aaron Rodgers didn't want to go under center, because he would regularly run the play clock to under a second and then audible and hand the ball off directly into a defender. And he also bought all the groceries, right? I think for better or worse, and it's not crazy the Jets did this considering their circumstance, they kind of gave Aaron Rodgers carte blanche. There's no way Nate Hackett is the offensive coordinator for 2 years if Aaron Rodgers isn't here. There's no way we see Randall Cobb and Alan Lazard and Billy Turner. And I know all those guys didn't straddle both seasons, but it's not all Aaron Rodgers' fault that the Jets' run game was really bad. That's on Nate Hackett. That's on Todd Downing. Breece Hall was not himself last year. Offensive line was inconsistent at times, but I don't know. Are we taking no accountability for how bad the run game was last year from the quarterback who was the de facto offensive coordinator? Just something that I kind of got a kick out of and made me a little more forward thinking, being like, the Jets running game should be much, much better this year, just by a factor of, one, Tanner Engstrand not being Nathaniel Hackett, two, the ability to use Justin Fields' threat as a runner or use him in an RPO game should open things up. But it's hard not to laugh at those comments, which came out over the weekend. What were your initial thoughts on them?
Yeah, it's really just the classic case of Aaron Rodgers being we're all trying to find the guy who did this guy all the time. Where when something is as bad as the Jets run game was last year compared to expectations, the answer is always more than one thing. But there's a trickle effect with Rodgers all the time. And the trickle effect with Rodgers is him physically, mentally, what he does and doesn't want to do, the coaching staff that he basically, signs off on, or is the reason a lot of them are there. And then, of course, things that are a little outside of his control. I thought Breece could have been better last year. He clearly was never healthy. The offensive line just didn't really have the continuity it felt like that they needed for a while. But overall, it's when I look at the Jets, I never sat there and watched and said they're not talented enough to run the football. I never believed in that. They have 3 capable running backs. They have enough talent on it. The Jets fan base kind of got put into this like Stockholm syndrome thing during the Joe Douglas era, that you have to have 5 all-pros to be able to function as an offense. Meanwhile, every team in the NFL, every functioning offense in the NFL has at least one overachiever on their offensive line, a guy they found in the 5th round and developed, or a low-level stopgap signing, or a UDFA that developed. There's one of those guys on a lot of high-powered offensive lines, because coaching and scheme and putting guys in position to succeed matters a lot. But with the Jets, you just looked at it and they were so predictable. And they were so predictable because of the limitations of Rodgers physically. I mean, how many times did we see on 3rd or 4th down them and be shotgun. They would be in shotgun, run a slow developing carry. And the best part is when they need a yard, they put Braylon Allen on the field and be like, here's our power back on the field.
Or they'd have Tyler Conklin do a quarterback sneak or be the up fullback.
Right.
It's so obvious what they were doing.
Right. And it's going to be better this year, not only by the law of averages, but because the personnel, number one, the personnel is just better to run the football. I don't think the Jets I'm not sitting here and I'm going to lie to you, but the Jets are going to be some great air it out team. But I know the Jets are going to be able to run the football this year because the threat of Fields, the utilization of their running backs, the talent on the offensive line, and the fact that they won't be they will go under center. They will use play action. They will give you different looks. They could use 2 back sets, as we've showed at the film room series before as well. There's just a lot of, variance in what they could do in the run game. And honestly, the bar is so low from a coaching standpoint. The thing is that I always fall back on, Rodgers gets the blame for the coaching situation. Like he really had such a big say in everything the Jets did offensively. And I'll just never forget, it felt like Downing against the Bills kind of had the shackles off and it was like, they're doing all these things that they haven't been doing and it's working. And then after that one game, they went back to everything that never worked. So yeah, I don't know. I know he didn't directly come out and say this. It was through somebody else that always seems to, take a shot at the Jets whenever they can. Who cares? But it's just like he just, I don't know, man. It's just he's got to let it go. The Jets have let him go, and it all gets decided on week 1, which makes it a lot more fun.
It's going to be fun. Underdog Fantasy Best Ball Draft Season. Now is the time to fire it up. Promo code Badlands for a deposit match. CR, how's your best ball draft flow going right now?
Nice rhythm right now. I'm just building every roster imaginable. Heavy running back, heavy wide receiver, premium quarterback, value dipping on quarterback with our very own Justin Fields. So I could do 100 best ball drafts and never get bored. Let's actually see how the results play out in half a year from now.
Sign up for Underdog today with promo code Badlands. We'll finish up on the run game here a little bit and then close with a couple other topics. I generally think that this will be the most run-heavy Jets team since 2009. I think there's a path to them being the most run-heavy team in the NFL. I don't know who else is in that argument. I know different things shake out. If the Jets are playing from behind a lot, maybe they don't run away with it. I just think with how they're structured, how they've invested in their offensive line, drafting a blocking tight end in the second round, the 3 running backs, and Justin Fields, who is a quarterback capable of running for 1,000 yards. And one of the questions we got in the Discord is, what records do we think Justin Fields could beat as a Jets quarterback if he's their guy for at least the next 2 years? And this came up in our Jeopardy game. The all-time leading rusher for a Jets quarterback lifetime is Richard Todd with like 800 yards. And Justin Fields could easily beat that. Not easily, but could incredibly beat that this year. And I think if I'm the Jets, in one season. And I think the Jets coaching staff, I would guess a lot of how they're visualizing running their offense as they're mapping things out right now is like, can we have the most dynamic running game in the NFL? Can Justin Fields run for 950 yards for us? Can Breece Hall be a bit up over 1,000 yards? Can we effectively spell him with a true 1B in Braylon Allen? And then can we mix in some Isaiah Davis when we want some variance? And let's run the ball a ton. Let's throw a ton of screens. Once a quarter, let's throw a play action, deep post to Garrett Wilson. We'll mix in a couple 9 routes here and there to Arian Smith. We'll throw some screens to, maybe Malachi Corley and Xavier Gibson, and maybe whatever we get out of, Reynolds, Lazard, and Tyler Johnson and Mason Taylor should be enough as pass catchers, because Taylor's going to be out there as a blocker. And, if the Jets are on the script that they want, I don't know, is a normal box score Justin Fields 9 to 11 carries, Breece Hall 14 to 17 carries, Braylon Allen 7 to 8 carries, and Isaiah Davis like 3 to 4 carries. And you're like, shit, the Jets ran the ball almost 30 times again, and they won 20 to 16, 17 to 12. And I know that's a hard formula to win with consistently in the NFL. In the modern NFL, the Jets have done it in their history. That's how they were successful for 2009 and large parts of 2010. It was run the hell out of the ball and then count on Sanchez to randomly be clutch out of nowhere after being mediocre all game. That's not always a formula. With Fields, if you're going to play that kind of football, you would hope statistically he can be a better passer than Sanchez was, at least in 2009. The numbers are really grim if you look at them for Sanchez that season. But also add the element where, there should be plenty of weeks, not plenty of weeks, but certain weeks where Fields is the Jets' leading rusher. And I think if you're using him correctly, you're not trying to make him Jared Goff. You're not trying to make him a pocket passer. Can you try to make his life easier as a passer? Can you try to accentuate certain parts of his game as a thrower that he's good at and certain routes he's comfortable with? Yes, but don't sign Justin Fields if you're not going to let him loose as a runner. That's what makes him special, right? That's one of the few things he can do that few other people in the NFL can do. So I think the Jets will probably lead the NFL in rushing attempts when you factor in Fields. Like what is a normal in the Jets' dream scenario in a win week 1? What does their offensive box score look like?
Well, I think when you look at those two teams, the way they line up against each other, it's not going to be pretty in theory, but you would hope that, number one, you're going to need a big running game from Fields because the Steelers, assuming they clean all this up with TJ Watt right now, are a team that's going to get after the quarterback. And, when you get after the quarterback, you're going to need to kind of beat that pass rush. If you have a guy that's not consistently beating the blitz with his arm, Fields is going to have to make some special plays happen with his legs. So you would think Fields runs for 75 yards and a touchdown, right? Say that Brees chips in because the Steelers, like they've drafted some improvements for their defensive line and Derek Harmon. They have some talent up front. Can you get another 60 from Brees, right? So that gets you to 135 rushing. Can you get 25 from Braylon Allen, right? That gets you to 160. And then, if you can go for 175 yards rushing in that game, because that's how the Jets are going to have to play, right? I know people are like, wow, how do you expect the Jets to run for 170 yards against the Steelers? I'm not saying that. I'm saying they're going to need those outbursts from Fields that put them in position, because I don't see a world where Fields is throwing for 270 yards in this game. You could be looking at 175-yard throwing performance. So at the end of the day, in a win, you're looking at an average offensive performance. But yeah, it'll be an ugly game. I think that it's always hard to figure out how the receiving box score is going to look like, because I think for most weeks it won't be pretty for the Jets. Like, it's easy to pencil in Garrett Wilson with 8 catches, but then, right, are we getting our 3 to 4 catches from Josh Reynolds, or 2 to 3 catches from Mason Taylor, or 3 to 4 catches from Breece Hall? And that's like where it stops, honestly. That's to me where it stops. So Lazard is honestly the wild card in all of this, but yeah, and maybe my rushing numbers are a little exaggerated, but if the Jets win that game, like, that's the formula the Jets need to be playing with, is that they are getting the same level of rushing production out of their quarterback that they're getting from their lead running back. I think you need to change the expectations for Breece Hall at some point. I think it's dangerous to go into a year, especially when the quarterback eats into some of the rushing production because of the design run element. Fields is going to have his scrambles that are big plays, but Fields is also going to have designed runs called for him that are supposed to open up more rushing room for Breece in the long haul and take another defender and pull him into the box and help Fields in the pass game. So I think you can't sit here and go, well, this is the year that Breece is going to have 1,500 rushing yards. Like, I would kind of recalibrate your expectations for Breece and look at him as, he should run for 1,000 yards. He just hasn't been healthy enough to do that. But can you also chip in a lot of receiving yards where Breece isn't running for 100 yards every week, but hey, he had another 35 to 40 receiving yards. Fields is running for 70 yards. You look up, and all of a sudden, rushing with Breece and Fields, you got 130 rushing yards, and Breece chipped in another 40 receiving yards. That's already 170 rushing total yards of offense without factoring in your number one wide receiver, your tight end, or any other running back. You can live that way if you have a good defense.
Yeah, they're going to have to be smart and creative and have a script